I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
We've been keeping you up to date with some of the problems that we've seen on the West Coast in general, and certainly up and down Interstate 5 with sex trafficking that I think for even people who live in the area, a little surprised at how this is the conduit going up all the way from California, of course, through Oregon, Washington, and into Canada. Well, our guest is Joseph Travers. He's the executive director of a group called Saved in America, and he has an interesting development as far as how they as an organization deal with those people who find themselves in sex trafficking. Joseph, it's good to have you with us. Now you're in California, so you're kind of right along this Interstate 5 route that we've been talking about, aren't you?
Yes, actually, I'm in Oceanside, which is right off of the 5 interstate.
Now, the background, just let our listeners and viewers know that Joseph is a former Navy veteran. Well, he's a Navy veteran with extensive experience in law enforcement and executive director of Saved in America. Describe what Saved in America is about. What is your mission?
Saved in America is a nonprofit organization. It's basically part of National Christian Information Center. And our mission with Saved in America is to rescue and rehabilitate children that are caught up in the child sex trafficking industry.
Now, how did you get involved in this? How were you even made aware of this problem?
I was actually about 5 years ago, I was reading an article in the Orange County Register, which is the county just north on the Interstate 5 from San Diego County, of former special operators, would be Navy SEALs and Air Force pararescue, and guys that were rescuing children victims overseas in different foreign countries. And as I read this, I thought, well, you know, this needs to be done here nationally in this country. So I called the special operators, got a meeting together, and they introduced me to a former Navy SEAL who has the same idea that I had, that we need to form an organization to rescue child trafficking victims here in the United States.
Describe the extent of the problem that you've been able to discover.
Here in this corridor in San Diego is actually the second largest for child sex trafficking in the country, the largest being in Texas, near El Paso. What happened is during the mid-1980s to the mid-1990s, the street gangs in the United States have organized with the prison gangs and the cartels in Mexico, and have taken these avenues that they have established with the drug trafficking and decided to run underage girls for sex trafficking through these same routes.
And do you have any idea what the numbers are, how extensive this is?
The latest study hasn't been for about 2 years.
Okay.
But approximately 60,000 victims over a year, maybe.
Wow, that is just huge. Describe, from what you can tell, who are these victims that you're trying to help? Is there a profile?
No, there really isn't. Some people would think, you would assume the profile might be a juvenile delinquent runaway who goes into the industry of their own accord. And that's actually the least common way that a child gets victimized. The most common way is what they call the Romeo method, where a gang member, or what they say a wannabe gang member, someone who wants to join a criminal gang, will date a prospective victim, gain their trust, and then beat them and rape them over a period of time, and then ply them up with drugs and alcohol to put them into the system.
And when you say that, they're kind of inducted and they cannot get out, is that the idea?
Correct, sort of like a Stockholm syndrome. They believe because they're now addicted to different types of drugs, heroin, methamphetamine, and other types of drugs, and because they believe that the people that they're with if they ever try to leave or report anything to the police, that not only will they be killed, but their family members and friends will be killed too.
Okay. Are we mostly talking teenagers that you're seeing? Is that stereotype at least accurate?
The average age where a young girl will be recruited into this is 11 or 12.
Oh, wow. And then up through the teen years as well as into the 20s, perhaps?
Correct.
All right, so Saved in America then is created to help get these victims out of it all. What is it you actually do?
We have a team that consists of 4 former special operation members, which are Navy SEALs, and we actually have one member that was part of the British SAS. And we partner those 4 with former police private investigators, and so we form 4 two-man teams with supporting cast. We have a lawyer on staff, myself, I administer it, and then we have another former Navy SEAL who manages the special operators. And what we do is we use surveillance and gather intelligence to locate the child, and then who is victimizing the child, then coordinate with local and federal law enforcement for the rescue.
So is it like the family of one of these victims comes to you and said, here's my child who needs to get out of this? Is that how you operate, or do you find them yourself?
Well, the family. The last case we just did, we actually heard about a family. A 15-year-old was missing from down here in San Diego County, from Del Mar, California. And we reached out to the family, and then the family brought us in. So
you work, either way, you work in partnership with the family then to get this individual removed from that environment.
That's correct.
Now, it sounds like a commando operation. I mean, you've got the people who are doing that. Is that what this ends up being? Is this a strategic plan that you have then that you put into play to extract this individual from that environment?
Sort of. The strategic plan has to do with covert investigation and intelligence gathering. As far as the extraction, we leave that to the police. So, for example, when we locate a victim, as we did, this one victim was located in Jacksonville, Florida, who was taken from, Jacksonville, Florida from Del Mar, California. So what we did is notified the sheriff's department in Jacksonville right away, and then coordinated. We set up an undercover sting operation to lure the suspect to us, and the police grabbed the suspect and then rescued the girl.
So you're working in conjunction with law enforcement the whole way through, is that accurate to say?
That's correct, yes.
And they must approve of what you're doing, given that unusual environment?
Absolutely. All our operators are also licensed private investigators and fully insured, which makes us unique. There's a couple other groups that are working here in the United States attempting to do this, but none of them are licensed by the state as private investigators, and they don't have the appropriate insurance coverage just in case something goes wrong. So that's kind of what makes us unique, and it helps us with law enforcement because it legitimizes what we do, and they know we're not out as what they might call, renegades or anything like that. We're very professional in the way we handle ourselves and in how we go about our investigation and our intelligence gathering.
All right, our guest is Joseph Travers. He's the executive director of a group called Saved in America. It's fascinating to hear how this works out. When you started this, did you see this as this kind of a strategic planning operation that you'd engage in, or did this kind of move into that when you realized how you had to operate to get these children and young adults out of that kind of an environment where they were being abused?
Oh, it's absolutely the former. When I first read about this and then partnered with the former Navy SEALs who runs operations, that was the first thing that we had to do, was strategically put this together so that it was a professional organization that acted totally within the law, completely within guidelines of proper investigative technique, and allowed us to get the proper insurances that we need to do this and do it right every time.
Now, you said from your experience, you said you used the term 60,000 children a year are in this, in your area, are in sex trafficking. Is that the accurate perspective?
Throughout the nation.
Throughout the nation. From what you've seen, you said you're in the second largest trafficking area. Is this problem getting worse or getting better?
It's getting worse because this has been around, the sex trafficking, through the criminal street gangs, maybe the last 5 years, 5-6 years. So law enforcement is trying to catch up to it. And it's very difficult for law enforcement because a lot of the victims they can only report them as missing runaways because they don't have proof to say anything else. So what happens is, for example, even our last case, we had jurisdictional problems where law enforcement could only go within their own jurisdiction. And once the trail went to a different jurisdiction, we had to contact another law enforcement agency. So we worked with about 6 to 7 law enforcement agencies, not including the federal law enforcement agencies, just on this last case alone.
Wow, this is fascinating. How can people get in touch with you? What's the best way? I mean, do you have a website? Yes,
through our website, savedinamerica.org. Savedinamerica.org.
All right, finally, in the minute we have left, what would you give to parents? They probably can't imagine that their child would become one of the individuals that you're trying to remove from the sex trafficking trade, but I suppose it is possible. What advice do you give them?
Is to know what your children are doing. And we're in the electronic age with cell phones and social media. Look and see who your child is with, and look at their friends on their Facebook and all their other social media accounts, because some of our best intelligence is when we get involved in these cases is we go through a forensic investigation of all the child's social media accounts.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for that perspective. I appreciate that. Again, the website is savedinamerica.org, right?
Yes, savedinamerica.org.
Joseph Travers, Executive Director of that organization, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.